So hey guys, welcome to part three of about documentary shows and documentary series that I watched over the course of my recovery. So leaving off kind of where I left off with the last one, the next show I actually have to talk about with you guys is a show that's on Netflix, and it features actually a YouTube personality that's really good on YouTube. If you haven't checked out his channel already, his name is Dame Drops. It's a show called Fresh Fried and Crispy. It's a show where he normally does a lot of food reviews on his channel, like fast food reviews and best and worst restaurants of his city and things like that. Um, but in this show in particular, he goes to a lot of different, like, significant cities in the U.S., like New York, and I think Baltimore was one he went to, Cleveland, and all these other places. And he wants to try to find the best fried and crispy foods that are in that city. And so he goes to several different restaurants, several different like celebrity restaurants and things like that. He really does try to find the best fried or crispy item within that city and let you know at the end of each episode kind of what was his favorite in that city and things like that. Um, so for the most part, the show, like I said, focuses on that stuff, focuses on him going to different cities, talking to different chefs, talking to different restaurants. Not a lot of these places are chain restaurants. So, like for example, I live in Wisconsin. So some of this stuff might not exist in Wisconsin quite yet, but that's stuff where if you go to Baltimore or New York or things like that, you'll find more of these places that he goes to. Um, but yeah, it's a really fun show. If you watch a lot of his YouTube content already, it definitely feels like something that's more of like an extended episode of his show on his YouTube channel. He definitely has a lot of personality, a very fun guy, likes to do a lot of rapping and rhythms and songs along while like eating the food and things like that. Really fun guy to watch. But for the most part, we're going to be critiquing in this part of the video his show for Fresh Fried and Crispy, and less so his YouTube channel. So for my positives and negatives of Fresh Fried and Crispy, it's very fun to watch. Dame Drops is always a really cool guy. You can definitely tell he gets along with a lot of the chefs in the show. Definitely people that incorporate like their family, and when he gets invited to like a backyard picnic for some of these restaurants, he gets to kind of have like an exclusive look at some of the best featured things from that restaurant and some of these backyard picnics and things like that. So it's super fun to watch. You can definitely tell he's a very fun guy to get along with. It's always fun to kind of see his take on certain foods. Another positive with the show is there's actually a lot of great foods and restaurants that he's exploring. Some of the places that he travels to in the U.S. are kind of specific for some of these things. Like there's a place that specifies in like crab meat. Some places specify in fried chicken a little bit more. He goes to carnivals, goes to like food trucks and things like that. A lot of the places that he gets to explore throughout the documentary are really fun, but definitely make you hungry after watching it. Some of the foods that he tries really encourage you to kind of try the foods along with him because some of the stuff looks really good. This show, like I said, is also really fun to watch, and if you love fried foods or any kind of crispy foods, I think you'll have even more fun time watching this just because a lot of the stuff probably is kind of bad for you, but a lot of the stuff that he does get to try does look really tasty, and I kind of wish I was trying the food along with him just because some of the entrees in this series look really tasty and interesting. All the stuff that Dame Drops does for his YouTube channel is done bigger and better here. You can definitely tell he gets a bigger budget to work with, which creates a more fun and delicious time on Netflix. So he gets to do a lot more things that you probably don't get to see him do as often on his YouTube channel. Because I think on his YouTube channel, he's either going for a walk or trying stuff in his car or getting like a behind the scenes kitchen look at how some of these things are made. So this is more so him talking specifically to the best chef of the restaurant or the owner of the restaurant or the people who really kind of have a hands-on creative touch with the restaurant and things like that. This is him being able to kind of explore those things in an even further detail. Once again, making for an even more fun show to watch. For my negatives, some of the episodes do run a little bit short. There's just certain episodes where I feel like more time could have been spent in other parts of the city, specifically on the bigger cities, because you almost kind of wonder on some of the episodes. You almost wonder just how many more places he could have gone to for some of the places he could have tried some of this. Maybe some of it was just not them being comfortable with him filming there or something like that. Who knows with some of these restaurants. Another negative with the show is I thought more non-crispy foods could have been tried out from time to time. It would have been nice to see more foods get like more attention. Like maybe he could have tried some more of the grilled foods or the salads or the desserts. He does get to try some desserts in some places, like in the carnivals and things like that. But I would have liked to see more kind of foods get tried and everything like that. maybe critique the crispy stuff while also critiquing some of the grilled stuff and some of the sides and some of the breads and some of the salads. It would have been interesting to kind of see his take on some of those, because you can tell some of these places he's going to or don't exactly specify. They don't major in like fried foods in particular. So it would have been interesting to see some of the more healthier options explored throughout the show. But overall, I would give Fresh Fried and Crispy a 9 out of 10. Really fun show. If you like the Dame Drops YouTube channel, I think you'll really have a lot of fun with this show as well. The next show I got to see on the course of my recovery was McMillions. It's an HBO documentary series. It runs about 6 episodes long. They're all pretty long, too. I would say they're at least a good solid hour, if not longer. Basically, the whole gist of the show is that it shows the monopoly scandal from McDonald's from way back in the day. How it is kind of always fishy how you didn't really hear about a lot of the winners of the show or winners of the Monopoly game in the McDonald's restaurants, and how there were a handful of people that won, the story behind how they won, and how they were all kind of a part of a scandal, and how 2 people, if not one in particular person as well, were kind of all involved in making this a scandal, making sure they knew who won the game and how they won the game, and how the people who were in charge of getting all the cups and fry boxes and things like that with all the game pieces on them, how they were kind of oblivious to all the stuff that was going on too, and how it took until the FBI to get involved for them to really find out who exactly was behind this scandal, how did certain people win, why was it significant as to who won and who they had connections with. Because McMillions explores all that. It explores if you never won the Monopoly game, there's kind of a reason for it. There was one person in particular that made sure that you didn't win the game because he knew how to win the game in particular, and he had a way of doing it very easily, and had a way of getting a hold of certain things that made it difficult for other people to win the game as well. So for my positives and negatives of McMillions, I like that they got a lot of permission from the people and the locations necessary, because otherwise the documentary couldn't have been told in the right way. So they wouldn't have been able to tell this documentary correctly if certain FBI agents said no to this, or certain people involved with the scandal said no to this, or certain homes or certain locations said no to this. I did like how they got a lot of permission and a lot of places explored to kind of show what exactly happened behind the scenes to make this scandal work, and how it took the FBI so long to kind of crack the scandal and figure out who exactly was involved with everything. Another positive with the show is it's always really interesting to see the real life story behind this, and how there's just so many layers to it, and how this person works for this person, and that person works for this person, and that person works for this person. So that way you have to go all the way back to that first person just to crack the scandal, like what the FBI had to do to solve this case. Because there really was a lot of layers to this scandal, and it definitely took them a long time to kind of figure all this out. But it's a very interesting real-life story, and you really would have not known this scandal was as big as it was until you see all the episodes of this documentary. There really is an absolutely outrageous scandal in every way possible regarding the people involved, regarding the people who actually did follow all the rules of the McDonald's Monopoly game. I actually do remember friends and family that would just constantly go back to McDonald's while the Monopoly game was going on. And they would really fairly play the game. They would constantly get game pieces. I think I actually knew somebody who was actually like 2 or 3 pieces away from winning one of the major prizes at one point. But obviously, after seeing this documentary, I can see why that person didn't win, and probably how it would have been too impossible for them to win based on how the scandal played out. And it just really screwed a lot of people over. It screwed the people who did the Monopoly game for McDonald's. It screwed the people who were involved with the scandal, who did get the money, who did get the prizes. It really screwed McDonald's over. It really screwed their relationships with other companies over to get the Monopoly game up and going, to get prizes out there and things like that. It really is an outrageous scandal in every sense of the word. And once you find out the person responsible and the jail time that they had, that was how minimal as it was, it really is pretty outrageous in every way you can think of. The documentary also looks at all sides of the equation of the scandal. It never feels biased. It really does explore everything the FBI was going through, what the people involved with the scandal were going through, what the people behind the scandal were going through, kind of their lives, and how their spouses and their children and their relatives kind of all got screwed over based on the scandal as well. It really does show every side of the equation and never feels biased. But one negative I have with the show, though, and maybe it's just me personally, because the person who was involved with this, and it really isn't a spoiler, because you find out right away who this person was that made all of this happen. The guy's name was Jerry Jacobson, who kind of screwed everybody over. It would have been interesting to see or hear the people who chose not to get involved with the documentary and their reasons behind it. Yeah, sure, maybe you couldn't get them on camera. Maybe have more subtitles and things like that as to why they chose not to get involved with this. Yeah, I understand some of them probably want to live personal lives and want to keep this behind them and things like that. But it would have been interesting to see what exactly they did. And they really didn't have anything to lose at this point. All the names are on the board in this. It was one of those things where just like, look, everybody knows that this happened at this point. You might as well just do the interview, get it over with. Hide in your house the rest of your life if you have to. Specifically Jerry Jacobson. I would have loved to have seen a quote or something from him that kind of explained all this. Yeah, I'm sure he's not happy with how it turned out, but it's one of those things just like, what do you have to lose at this point? But overall, I would give McMillions a 9 out of 10. There's a lot of interesting things covered here. Some people are a little tight-lipped on some of the things in this that really would have made this even more interesting. But for the most part, they explore this scandal as much as they can, as much as they're allowed to. And it's really interesting. I was really interested and invested in this documentary series from start to finish. Like I said, it is 6 episodes long. It is kind of a commitment to watch the whole thing, but if you're committed to it, it's a really interesting watch. I would give it a 9 out of 10. The next thing on my list here is called Showbiz Kids, and I just want to check something here. Okay, so Showbiz Kids. So this is a documentary by Alex Winter, who himself is a child actor and directs his own projects and gets involved with documentaries and things like that. But he's most well known for his Bill and Ted movies. He did a documentary a couple years back about kids who enter show business, what exactly all the goods and the bads of show business, and kind of how some of them disappeared over time, how some of them have continued acting in their adult years, how we get people like a Scarlett Johansson who starts at a young age, still acts today, while we get people like Macaulay Culkin who was very active back in the day, but isn't so active now. So Showbiz Kids explores all that. They specifically explore like Mayra Wilson from Matilda, and they explore Will Wheaton from Stand By Me, and some other familiar faces that you're going to recognize. People who are still involved with the acting industry today, and people who are not. But for my positives and negatives of Showbiz Kids, it was a really interesting watch. It shows just how hard it is for that lifestyle when you're a kid, that when you're kind of in the entertainment business and acting in films and TV shows all the time, that's kind of your life. You're really not one of those kids that are playing in the playground all the time or getting a lot of friends or getting an opportunity to go to summer camp or to Boy Scouts or anything like that. Once you're in the acting business as a kid, you're kind of in there for a long time, and it's either Hollywood rejecting you or you rejecting Hollywood to kind of get out of the system if things are going really well. Another positive I have with the show is it shows how a lot of these child stars, how a lot of them felt alone. They feel more alone than you think they would. Like Mayra Wilson, for example, had this doll that she always brought to the set with her to kind of make sure that her childhood was still kind of intact while all these films were being made. Because really, like I said, she really would have loved to have gone to the playground or do some after-school extracurriculars and things like that. But because she was a child actress, she didn't get a lot of opportunities to do those things that a lot of normal kids were able to do as well. But for my negatives of the documentary made by Alex Winter, it did feel randomly structured at times for no real reason. Like if it explored this one person, randomly explore another person, then go back to that person from before, go to a different person, go back to that person from before. So it just felt kind of choppy. I really would have just liked to have focused on Mayra Wilson, focused on the Disney star guy, focused on this other person, focused on that, and then eventually move their way up to other people. I didn't like how they kind of went back and forth with certain people. It just kind of made it a difficult documentary to get invested in at times. It's because they were going back and forth with a lot of different people throughout the story. I also thought it wasn't as insightful as I would have wanted it to be. I thought more talent could have been recruited for this. Like Macaulay Culkin isn't in this, and he's probably would have been one of the more interesting and better names to explore in this. Alex Winter himself, I don't know why he didn't allow himself to have some on-camera screen time in this. He sounds like he has a lot of child star stories that would have been interesting for him to share in this, specifically with him directing a movie like this. I would give Showbiz Kids an 8 out of 10. It's a good documentary, but it is a little randomly structured for me. I would have liked to have seen more consistency in it, and it would have been interesting to see even more talent recruited for this, like a Macaulay Culkin or Alex Winter himself having some screen time in this too. So 8 out of 10 for me on Showbiz Kids. It's a good enough documentary, but some of the things I talked about earlier I think are better choices to stream right now. So when we get back, you guys, I have one more show to talk about with you guys, and then I think that'll finally wrap up all these parts and segments of this two-part series I did of things I watched over the course of my surgery. So I'll be back with one more video talking about one more show that turned out to be really good, and I'll see you guys back here for that one more part, for this last part of this segment of the videos.